Hello and good morning. Welcome to this week's IGTV. I am giving you the full tea of what my boys think of my parenting. Like, what do they honestly actually think of my parenting? Because here I am on all these social media streams, dishing the parenting advice here and there and all over the place because of what I learned and part of my journey. But what do they actually think? So today, I'm not sure why I put on makeup because it's going to be a Kleenex kind of day. Come on in, welcome, thanks for joining me. My name is Allie Payne. I'm a certified life coach and certified relationship systems coach. I have been working with parents and teens for 15 years. Last week was my anniversary. 15 years to help them end the painful disconnection, emotional blow-ups, and stressful silences to create relationships, lasting relationships built on trust and respect. The reason I'm so passionate about this is because I was raised in a very emotionally abusive, somewhat physically abusive home. Although better than what my parents had, it's part of my legacy. And I decided with my kids, I wanted it to end. The emotional abuse, the physical abuse, alcoholism, all that, it was going to end. I've done a pretty good job, I think, but I think it's more important to ask my teenagers, what do they think? So here's how today is gonna roll, okay? Today is gonna roll like this. I asked my kids 7 questions. And I asked them to give me the totally unfiltered, honest answers. Now, my boys are now 18 and 20, okay? So I think that they have sufficient perspective to look back and really answer these questions. And my youngest is away at university as well. So I think, like I said, I think they've been through the worst. We've been through the worst of the teen years, and they have the perspective to give me these answers. So I'm going to dive in. What I need you to know is I've never read these. You are seeing this with me here now live for the first time. I will read the question and then I will read my son's answers. I will probably have something to say about those answers. All I can say is send me lots of hearts because this is probably going to feel hard. Okay, are you ready? Are you guys ready to dive in on this? Okay, so I printed these off. I've never read them. I just carried them down to my office face down. So I have not read these before. This is happening live. Right now, I'm a little scared. Okay, thanks, triple blessings. Here we go. Question 1. What do you appreciate most about my parenting? Okay, here was their answers. My answer from my oldest. Now, my oldest has generalized anxiety, OCD. He was diagnosed when he was 8. Okay, so different perspective. He's more introverted. I guess I should have given you this context. My youngest is more like me. He's very tactile, huggy, touchy, lovey, extrovert kind of kid. Okay, so the first question, what do you appreciate most about my parenting? Oh, here we go. My oldest says, teaching strong independence, like participating in helping upkeep the house, or allowing them to go camping with friends, using my car, trusting them enough to go camping with their friends, and about the dishwashing, like basically what my son is saying is when they were 13-ish, when they were 13 and 11 was when we said, okay, you guys, you are now responsible for helping wash dishes one night a week. And they already they were already like helping with laundry and house cleaning toilets. They know how to do all that. But washing dishes started when they were about 11 and 13. So my oldest is saying teaching strong independence was what worked about his parenting. worked about my parenting was that he has skills and he knows how to live. Like if I'm not here, he's not lost. I don't make him meals anymore. Like he's on his own. He knows how to cook. He knows what's in the freezer. He knows how to wash dishes. He knows how to clean the kitchen. He knows how to clean a bathroom. He knows how to do that stuff. So, okay. All of your kids successful with the hand. Well, I don't know if I wouldn't call it a hands-off approach. I'm very, very firm. You guys, like I'm very firm. I'm very boundaried. My kids know exactly where I stand. They do not have to guess. So that's how I brought them up. Okay, this is my youngest answer to the question. What do you appreciate most about my parenting? Whew, here we go. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna cry. I already know I'm gonna cry. Whew, okay. The thing I appreciate most about your parenting is how strict you are. Oh my gosh. Okay. The thing I appreciate most about your parenting is how strict you are, while also being very flexible and open. Okay. I notice many times when I go to a friend's house how good it was having this structure set in place. So I have to do things around the house and help with meals. It helped me mature in a way and become more independent. And you may have been strict at times in some areas, but you also allow me to do what I want and have fun without hovering over my every move. Okay, let's get the Kleenex. You guys, this is hard. Oh, this is hard. This is hard. Thank you. Thank you, Deanna. Okay, question 2. Are you ready? Okay, question 2. What event do you remember the most, positive or negative? Okay, positive or negative. What event do you remember the most? Here it is. That's so funny. Okay, my oldest, oh my gosh, you're crying too. Okay, I love it. I love it. So my oldest says, helping with the dishwasher with Thomas as I stood on the chair. So what he means is my oldest would stand on a chair next to the cupboard where the glasses and the plates used to be. And my youngest would take things out of the dishwasher, hand them to his brother, and his brother would put them in the cupboard. So they would do like a chain gang because they've been emptying the dishwasher since they were 3, other than sharp knives. Excuse me, what I used to do is I wait for the dishwasher to cool off, which yes, it took more time. It was annoying for me. I would actually take the cutlery drawer out of the drawer every friggin' day. Yeah, every couple days, put it on the floor and they would sort. They loved to sort cutlery. So when the cutlery was cool, they would put the cutlery away. They would stack the plates for me, even if it was on the floor, and I would pick them up and put them. So that is so funny. My oldest remembers that as being one of his most positive memories, is doing the chain gang, putting the dishwasher, emptying the dishwasher with his brother. That is so funny. He also says, making my own lunch way before others did in school. So isn't that funny? My oldest, what event do you remember the most, positive or negative? My oldest, so they've been making their own lunches since they were 5. I was, again, kind of a married single mom. My husband was away most of the year or unavailable. He worked long hours plus training. He was a 3-time Olympian and is now a sport coach. So so my oldest, what he remembers the most positively was having the independence to know how to make his lunch. Now I used to help them. Like I would help them make sure they had certain food groups in their lunch and that they had things that was enough, but they took, responsibility for that. I didn't do that. So that's interesting. That's the oldest answer. Here's my youngest answer to this. What event do you remember the most, positive or negative? Okay, here it is. Not an event, no event really stands out for me that had to do with your parenting. And I think that may be a good thing because I believe it shows that you are consistent in how you disciplined me. I love that. My youngest doesn't have like the specific memory. He's more just era kind of memory, whereas my oldest is like me. He has like really specific memories. So, okay, I survived that one. I thought that one would be way harder. Okay, are you ready for number 3? Here we go. Here's question number 3. What do you wish I had done differently and why? I am regretting right now that I asked them this question. Just right now, I'm regretting that I asked them this question. Okay, here it is. Okay, my oldest says, celebrating small mistakes and not getting worked up over small things. So I totally take that for sure, because with my anxiety and the way that I used to operate, when something didn't go well or didn't go right, I would freak out and it would trigger his anxiety. And it didn't work for him. So I totally get. Yeah, right? Like, are you noticing how different their answers are? Like, one is very clear and concise and the other's more emotion-based. So interesting, hey? Okay, so celebrating small mistakes, not getting worked up over small things. Yep, totally get that. Example, forgetting to get a grocery item is not the end of the world. Yeah, and I used to freak out over it because I was so friggin' exhausted. So exhausted I could barely pull myself to walk some days, raising 2 kids and financial scarcity, and I didn't have a lot of support from other extended family, etc. So if I forgot a grocery item, I would freak out because of the thought of the energy that it would take for me to go back to the grocery store to get that one item. Like, it was epic for me. I was so exhausted, running on empty all the time. And again, a lot of this is because of my own unrecognized anxiety at the time. So that's interesting. He says, also, example, if I buy sour cream on my way home from work, saying thank you and celebrating the fact that it might be the wrong kind instead of you bought the wrong kind and making a big deal out of it. Yeah, like I used to make a big deal out of that, yeah. So this is more about what he wishes that I had done differently. Having an approach more of love and less of fixing. Yep, oh, I was a fixer. Big fixer. And the more anxious and tired I am, the more I go into fixing than I do into loving. So just in case you were wondering if I was the perfect mom, I hope this is answering that for you. Okay. Yeah, so true, so true. When I'm tired and I'm frustrated, I go into fixing. Yeah. Also, he says, allowing me to sit in all kinds of situations, even if they are uncomfortable. Yeah, and I used to be a full rescuer as well. Fixer, okay, yeah, so I'm not alone, good. Yep, so he wanted me to have allowed him to sit in different situations, even if they were uncomfortable, instead of maybe trying to fix or solve. So good feedback. I find I'm offered advice and told you should do this when I didn't ask for it. Yeah, particularly around finding jobs. Yes. So there you go. I am preaching to the choir in most of my videos. It's not because, I hope you guys never think that I'm making these videos because I'm like I'm like perfect at all this. And I'm, I don't ever get it. Like that's so not true. And I really hope I haven't portrayed that. Because here you go. Here's the answers right from the people who said it. Giving advice, offering free advice. I do catch myself doing that, especially when I see, my kids are struggling. What do you think I do? I go to, well, have you thought of this? Or maybe you should do this or whatever. And my oldest is fiercely independent as I am and doesn't take lightly to that. And I really respect his really honest answers. Okay, so number 3. Are you ready for number 3 from my youngest? Here we go. Here we go. So the question again is, what do you wish I'd done differently and why? Okay, this is from my youngest. One thing that I think of that I wish maybe you could have done a little different is when I started to become a little interested in Pokemon around the 4th grade and we had our Nintendo DS. Now it just seems a little silly that you were almost afraid of the little Pokemon creatures because of what other crazy moms told you. I think it's a game. It's just a game, Mom. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's funny. So I was not a fan of Pokemon. I was new in some Christianity and my walk of faith, and I was really checking a lot of kids' games out and the background of them, and I was trying to be really intentional about what I exposed our kids to, without keeping them in such a bubble that they hadn't exposed to nothing. And Pokemon was one of those things I just picked. I had a stick in my craw, and they were just not going to be Pokemon kids. They had some Pokemon cards, but beyond that, I was pretty strict about Pokemon. And I don't know. If you ask me now, would I be? I don't know. Okay? Again, I didn't get it all perfect. And there is no perfect. Can we just say that? There's no perfect way. There's lots of good ways and ways that work and lots of ways that don't work. So there you go. He wishes I had been better with letting him do more Pokemon. That's my gaming son. Woo, that's a good one. Okay. So, here is number 4. Are you ready, you guys? Here's number 4 for you. Do you feel you were set up for success in life? Why or why not? Okay. I gotta tell you guys, I thought number 3 would be a lot harder. Whew, I thought I'd be in a puddle on the floor by now. Okay, so number 4, do you feel you were set up for success in life? Why or why not? So my oldest says, thanks Deanna, my oldest says yes and no. I've had to be in other family dynamics to understand the ways in which I have not been set up for success. Yes, of course, because we all think that our own family is like the norm, right? And it's true and right, and that's all we know. So interesting. So he says, what he learned from being in other family situations is that not everything is about efficiency, which is hysterical because my husband and I are super about efficiency. We just hate wasting time, not because we like being busy all the time, but because we want to do less things. We want to do less, so we get a little hyper vigilant about efficiency. Yeah, so my son is saying not everything is about efficiency. Like making a trip to the big city, which is like 45 minutes away, making a trip to the city, the bigger city, can be just for fun. It doesn't have to be like a whole goal, and you don't have to, like, if you're gonna go, you have to go to all the 4 stores, or you can't make it, or it's a wasted trip. That is totally my husband and I, and my oldest is being like, dude, peace out, man. You can just like go and have fun. Interesting from a 20-year-old. This is interesting. He also says, celebrate small mistakes, like explained above, like be easy breezy. I'm not that easy breezy. I try, but I'm really not that easy breezy. I still have anxiety, and I still, I'm often, I'm doing my best to do less and take more time to rest. But I think his answers are a really good reflection of the hypervigilance around efficiency and not wasting time, so that there is more time to rest. So interesting perspective, right? Okay, so number 4 from my youngest. And so again, the question is, do you feel you were set up for success in life? Why or why not? Okay, so this is my youngest. He says, I feel as though I was set up to succeed perfectly by you as a parent. Aww. But school, the but has a but. Anytime you hear the word but, here it comes. But school, which everyone should know I despise, high school specifically, made it difficult to see a definite future for myself anywhere, especially how I was taught just how to be respectful, even when in situations that just completely suck. Like when I got in trouble at work and had to sit down and take the criticism. Okay, yeah. So he's saying, does he think he was set up for success? Yeah, so he thinks as parenting I did, but in school, like my youngest, they're both extremely smart. They both get like high 90s average. They work hard and they get great grades. But he also doesn't see the relevancy of high school. He just thought a lot of it was asinine and a waste of his time. And he, he's a bit like me, he's a little bold, and wanted to say more about that, but felt that he was taught to be respectful. And this one time he got in trouble at work because a co-owner came into a store and saw him sitting on a table, and he got in trouble because another owner told the owner of the store that he was sitting on a table and that his butt wasn't clean, and now it's against. So he just, like a respectful teenager, totally disagreed with why he was getting in trouble. Like, it was so ridiculous because his boss was only giving him heck because his friend, who's a store owner, he was setting an example using my son as an example for something totally dumb. But my son sat and just took it, even though he wanted to say, like, this is stupid. If your friend hadn't noticed me sitting there, you would never be saying this. That's true. I did. I taught him to be respectful. And I think he's saying he wanted me to teach him also how to speak up maybe a little bit more. And right? Like, who knows? Like, that kid he's like me. He's bold and he can speak up, and I did it way too much. So maybe I went the other way with him. Maybe don't speak up as much. Okay, number 5. Okay, we're making it through. So far, I'm succeeding. Okay, like as in I'm not a puddle. And I don't mean succeeding as in whether or not my kids agree. Because I'm just going to say right now, you're not always going to agree. Your perception of your parenting is probably not your teenager's perception of your parenting. And that's what I'm trying to do in doing this exercise, is to show you that it's okay to, first of all, not be perfect, because can we not aim for that? Holy wow. Number 2, your kids are never going to think you were perfect anyway. So why aim for it? And number 3, even if they think there's things that you could have done wildly differently to support them, wouldn't you rather know about that now? Like, I think this is important, right? Yeah, Carmen, exactly. You can teach your kids that they can disagree and they can hate stuff. They don't have to agree with it, but some things they can change and sometimes they can't, So anyway, okay, so number 5. Here is number 5. What boundaries or rules did you appreciate and which did you hate? This is interesting. Okay, so what boundaries or rules did I set that they appreciated and which ones did they hate? Here it goes. Oh, interesting. So my oldest is a hat guy. Like, every single person who knows my son knows that he wears hats. He just loves hats, not necessarily baseball caps, very specific hats. He had like a thin brim kind of bucket hat of my husband's that he loved. Everybody knows my son loves hats. And the one rule that we had is no hats at the table. No hats at the dinner table. And he did not appreciate that. He did not appreciate no hats at the table. He wanted to be able to wear his hat at the table. Okay, there you go. There's one of them. Okay, that's about it for him. Okay, on my youngest, this is what he says about what boundaries he liked and what boundaries he didn't like. The best boundary that we both don't talk about, but we both know is there, is your respect for my privacy. I'm just going to breathe for a second. So the reason that statement hits me hard, I have not read the rest of that, is because I grew up where I was not allowed to have privacy. I grew up in a home where I wasn't allowed to close my door. Now, if you're a young girl in a hallway where your dad is walking past and you're changing, I was not allowed to close a door. You guys, that's how little my parents trusted and how much control they wanted. I had no privacy. My mom would come in my room as she was knocking. Not knock first. She would come in as she was knocking. My mom has almost walked in on my husband and I, more than once, because she doesn't knock. She just like comes in. There's no sense of privacy. So this is really big for me because it was a huge thing that I swore I was going to let my kids have, because I understand the anxiety that is created when someone doesn't have privacy. And I mean their rooms, their phones, everything. Okay? All right, I'm going to go back to reading. Okay. So this is, again, the question is, what boundary or rule did I have that you loved or didn't like? This is my youngest. He says, the best boundary that we don't talk about, but we both know is there, is your respect for my privacy. Just as you have said with other parents who take their child's device and look through every little thing they do, you allow me to be treated almost like an equal, like almost, because you are still the parent and you still look over me, which is a good thing, obviously, when I'm still young and learning. With that being said, we still had the rule of limited screen time, which, looking back, was probably a good thing. Okay, I'm just going to be with that for 1 sec. So there you go. Yes, this is going to be posted here on my Instagram and also on YouTube. So I just want to let you know that let's just talk about this right now, okay? I know most parents say, well, I pay for it. It's my phone, so I can go through it whenever I want. Yep. Yeah. I got it. I pay for my kids' phones too. And I also had a rule that my fingerprint and or I had to always know the code to their phones for safety reasons. I always said that. And I told them that if I ever needed to check their phones, I would. But I would do it with them present and explain my exact data as to why I was doing that. I never did check their phones. I never had to. In fact, my kids would show me some text sometimes and they'd be like, what does this even mean? Like when they were kind of getting to know girls and not sure. Carmen, my boys are 18 and 20 now. They would show me things like, and so yes, I paid for my kids' phones. Yes, I had, I had a rule that I had to have access to their phone if I ever needed it. I never once went through their phone and I never had reason to, so I did not. And I was very, very strict. My kids could not download an app without asking me when they were young. Like when they were really young, they couldn't download an app without asking me. If they wanted a new game, we had to sit down and go through the reviews together. They had to tell me what other kids had those games because I knew whose parents were doing what. And what was the gist of the game. We had a rule there couldn't be any like blood, guts, and gore when they were little. Like that was it. Like they could have the Lego games because when you shot someone in Lego, the little Lego man just went poof into pieces on the ground and then he put himself back together. Like I let them do that. We were very, very strict with our kids about what apps they had. We talked about often what they could and couldn't post. They could never post a picture of each other's faces. They couldn't post a picture showing the front of our house with an address. They couldn't show a picture of any other minor. They couldn't show any videos that had names in it of minors. Like we were wildly strict. Their accounts had to be private. We had to follow them. If they were unsure about posting something, they had to check it with us first. And this was all like in the early days, okay? Like 12 and 13, okay? Like not now. But once we kind of went through that for a couple of years, they were sort of on their own and they were making really good choices. So And yes, my kids are on Snap. They use Snap and they, have streaks and all the rest of that. But we had that trust with them. So that is really interesting to me, that one of the best boundaries my son thought that I had was that I allowed him his privacy. And at the same time, he's visual like me, my 18-year-old, is that he was the one that I had screen time limitations on. I used Our Pact, OURPACT. Our Pact is not an invasive app. It is simply an app that limits access based on time to certain apps and Wi-Fi. And my oldest, I didn't do it with. He's very self-regulated, so I didn't need to. So interesting. There you go. That's even now, my youngest is at university and he has a screen time password on his phone that he doesn't know. Only I know the code. Because he's like me. He knows, like, he'll get caught in watching movies and doing things and he won't get work done. Like, that doesn't make him weak or wrong or bad. Can I just say that? It doesn't make him weak or wrong or bad. That's his brain, the way he's very visual and auditory. So movies and games really work for him. And my oldest isn't wired that way. It doesn't make him better or smarter or more responsible. Can I just say that? So please be careful about labeling your kids around their phone usage. Okay? Whole other topic. Anyway. Okay, number 6. Are you guys ready for Thanks for sticking this out with me, by the way. Right? Okay, well, good for you that your teenager just set her own limitations. Like my oldest did that too. I was shocked. I was shocked. Our kids are smarter than we think. We don't need to go through everything they have to prove they're not doing something wrong. Instead of parenting through a relationship and conversation, I'm not saying that phones can't be dangerous and the internet can't be dangerous, because it is the wild, wild west. Like, it is, but let's just be careful. Strategies and tools are systems. Yes, exactly. Okay, so here's the next question. What do you wish other parents knew? Okay, here's interesting. This is what my boys say. What do you wish other parents knew? They say, my oldest says, take an interest in the life of your children and what they are interested in. You're not fundamentally better than they are. Interesting. You are not fundamentally better than they are. Be your child's friend and still be their parent. Example, how would you speak to your best friend? Speak to your child that way, in the way of conversations, basic interactions, and taking an interest in them. But don't stop being a parent, which you are. So I think what my oldest is saying is, don't march around the house. I'm interpreting this because I know him. Don't march around the house like you're like all superior and better and smarter and just plain better. Your child deserves respect of being a knowing, heart-beating, learning human being. But that doesn't make them less of a human being than you are. You can still be their parent and speak to them kindly, friendly, without constantly having to assert your authority or superiority with your child. And there's a line. There's a line there, as he said, because he's like, don't stop being the parent, which you are. So you still have to be the parent, but you can still treat your child as, and not be like demeaning to them. I think that's really big for him. My introvert is not being demeaning. Yeah. Okay. So there you go. So the question is, what do you wish other parents knew? Here's what my youngest says. Are you ready? I literally can't think of any phrase that you have, from what you have said that other parents are doing. Okay, so my kids know what I do, right? I think the biggest thing they need to hear is that just because they say something doesn't make it the law or even right. Interesting. Also, they should be prepared to talk to their kids as to why things are the way they are, but not expect their children to agree with them. Well, there you have it. right? So interesting that both boys actually said the same thing, basically, is they need to hear their kids. Just because it's your opinion doesn't make it the law, and it doesn't make it right, and your kids can still disagree with you. And that's the difficult conversation that probably you and I were not, if you're like me, you weren't raised with these difficult conversations. If you were raised in absolute authority, what your parents said went for sure, and you did not negotiate that, you didn't speak up against that, you just did it. And I don't believe in that style of parenting. I don't think that it's really effective. And yet, there are times when I do have to lay down the law, and my kids don't have to agree with me, though. And that doesn't make them disrespectful, and it doesn't mean they're talking back. Man, I get this from parents so many times. If you say something and your teenager doesn't agree with you, you're going to get the raw feed. Why? Because they haven't learned effective ways to tell you that they hear you, and they may abide by that, but they disagree. And are you big enough? Are you vulnerable enough to listen to why your teenager disagrees? Help them find the effective words. Are you listening to why they disagree with you? And because teenagers often have some really valid points that might actually change your mind or might help you negotiate a different way. But you have to be in a position where you're willing to release that absolute authority and control, to release the notion that your teenager disagreeing with you is disrespectful and talking back, and you're not having any of that. Like this is interesting that my younger son said that what you say isn't the law, and it doesn't even make it right. It doesn't mean you're not still going to hold that perspective or that boundary, but are you willing to listen to what your teenager has to say about it? Because when your teenager feels heard, they're far more likely to do what it is you've asked, even if they don't agree with you. They just want to be heard. So that's an interesting point. Very, very interesting. Okay, you guys, we're getting there. Okay, let me see. Sorry, question number, just a minute. Question number, I don't even know. Wait, just a minute. Oh, sorry, I got lost in my questions. What do you wish other parents knew? Oh, there's another page here from my oldest I missed. What do you wish other parents knew? Oh, this is a powerful statement. This is what my oldest just said. My oldest says, if you want your child to grow into a strong adult, treat them as one. Wowza! Bam! That was what my oldest said. If you want your child, what do you wish other parents knew? If you want your child to grow into a strong adult, treat them as one. Okay. He also says, sorry, I'm trying to make sense of this. How would you be in relationship with your closest friend who's your age? He's mature beyond his years, this one. So treat your child as if they were a friend your age, without letting go of being a parent. He says, how do you offer support for a good friend the same way that you would offer support for them? How would you speak to them? Same way. How do you spend time with them? How do you deal with conflict with them? Whoosh. These are things that my oldest says that he wished other parents would know, that parenting is not an opportunity to power trip. I think that's basically what he's saying, but given that I know him. Parenting is not an opportunity for you to power trip. If parenting is where you think you're going to power trip, you might have some conflict. You might have some issues with that. So that's basically what he says. Okay. So here's number 7. This is my final. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Here's my final question, number 7, okay? And then we're going to wrap this up. What words or phrases did you like and hate? Okay, what words or phrases did I use that they liked or hated? So here's the answers from my oldest. I don't like being referred to with pet names or childish nicknames. This is my high anxiety, super intelligent introvert. I don't like being referred to with pet names or childish nicknames. He likes his name, just his name. That is all. Which is super hard for me because I'm like super affectionate and he's not. And that's okay. We're just different that way. But this is really interesting feedback as far as love languages, right? I talk a lot about love languages. In fact, in my Empowered Parent Mastermind, the 8-week parenting mastermind, we're talking about love languages like later today. So there you go. He says, basically any references to me that would be used when speaking to a child. Are you noticing? He likes to be emotionally, so just in case you're wondering, again, I cover this in my 8-week mastermind program, all of this in detail. Introverted, highly intelligent introverted kids actually show up on tests that they show up emotionally far beyond their chronological years. Okay? So as an introvert, if you have a 16-year-old, they might emotionally test out at like mid-20s. But if you have an extrovert, emotionally, as a teen, they will often test out younger than their chronological years. So yeah, because I said so, yeah. So this is what you're getting from my 20-year-old who could pass as a 40-year-old. And I don't mean that in like a derogatory way. He's very, very emotionally mature for his age. So he doesn't like being spoken to as if I would speak to a child. I'm an adult, so I like to be spoken to as an adult, which yes, legally he is an adult now. As an overarching theme, yeah, he wants to be referred to by his name. So there you go. If you have an introvert who is more analytical, less animated, more internal, love language is probably not words of affirmation. Probably not physical touch. I'm just guessing, but again, this is all module 2 in my Empowered Parent Mastermind that I'm covering later today, so it's on my mind. Okay, last and final question from my youngest. What words, phrases did you like and hate? Okay, here we go, number 7. I literally can't think of any phrase that you have said that was unpleasant. You usually keep things simple, but also impactful. If I had to let other parents know what is not really okay to say to a kid is swearing, using foul language toward them. Yeah, I was sworn at as a child all the time. I was called swear words, profanity, a lot of name calling. If you need to get a message across, set the example that you don't need these curse words to be impactful with your message. So that's what my youngest says. We always taught our kids, we swear in our house now that they're adults, okay? Not all the time, but we do. We swear sometimes. I talk like a pirate with my friends, I'm just saying, but I don't with my kids. When my kids were young, we were very cautious about our language. And when they had friends who were flavorful with their language, we would always tell our kids that kids will often use those languages for attention, to feel impactful when they don't know other words to use. So we would always tell our kids, those words might feel powerful and like punchy, but they're probably not the best use of words to really say what you want to say. So we weren't trying to belittle their other friends, but just saying it's often that people use profanity when they don't know a really effective way to express what they're trying to say. So teaching our kids to be really impactful and succinct with their words, with emotional expression, emotional vocabulary was really something that I worked hard on with them as boys, because I think boys get wildly ripped off on that luxury that usually is only given to girls. So interesting that that's what my youngest says. And one last note he puts at the very bottom, He wants me to make sure this vote is registered. Also, I want on the record that I don't like TikTok. Love you. My kids hate being in my TikTok videos, and although I do ask them to film sometimes, they are not fans. They are not fans of, I mean, they're proud of me, they're proud of what I'm doing, but they are not fans of TikTok. So, all right, that is my IGTV today. That is the reality of what my kids think that I do well and I don't do well, what they appreciate and what they don't appreciate. So I hope, if nothing else, this has burst any bubble for you that somehow I'm perfect, because hell no. When I say welcome to the Imperfect Parenting Club, like, I truly mean that, you guys. I have horrible days. I have freak out days. I have days where I am super anxious. I have days where I'm nitpicky and I'm demanding, and I have all those days. All you can do is do your best. And when you feel not perfect, not perfect, do your best. And when you feel that you have fallen short of something that you don't like, only you know that, then you go to your kids or your husband or your partner or whatever, and you apologize. And you say, that was not the way that I wanted that to be. I'm sorry. I wanted to have done it this way. This was what was going on for me. It doesn't make it okay. I'm just letting you know that I'm aware that I slipped up on that, and I'm asking for your grace and forgiveness. Because that's all we can do, you guys. Pay for the first year of therapy and then move on. Because we will disappoint our kids in some way. We're not going to be perfect. And being super authoritarian and controlling isn't the way to do it. And being easy breezy, I'll be your best friend, you don't need a parent, isn't the way to do it either. But there is a middle ground in there somewhere. And my middle ground is going to be different than your middle ground. What I want to do in this is offer you as many tools as possible to help you find your middle ground and love yourself in it and love your kids in it. That's my intention for doing this, because I will not stand for my generational legacy to continue. I do believe there is a different and better way, but I don't believe there's only one way. So I want to say thank you for joining me. I love and appreciate all of you, and I believe that you are doing the very best you can and doing a great job. So give yourself a bit of credit, take a deep breath, and let's do this together. This literally the world's hardest job for which there is no training. Speaking of which, if you want some training, there's two things going on. I have a private parenting group where I go live twice a month and not only answer questions like this, it's on Facebook, but I also answer questions and provide all the extra resources. It's a nice small group, so I give very personalized attention in my private parenting group. It is free for a month if you want to try. It's like 30 days free if you want to try. It also has tons of exclusive content, downloads, and lots of other things in that private parenting group. Thank you so much, you guys. So there's a link in my bio, private parenting group. There's a link in my bio. You can go there. If you go to my website, alipayne.com, under work with me, it'll say the Empowered Parent Community. That's my private parenting group that is free for a month if you want to try it. Okay, jump on in. The second thing is, if you are struggling with boundaries and consequences and what the heck that is still supposed to mean and how to use them in a way that works, I now have Become a Boundaries Boss. Become a Boundaries Boss is now a course. You can find it on my website under alipayne.com and then programs, Become a Boundaries Boss. You can also find it via the link in my bio. Set effective boundaries and consequences that work, Become a Boundaries Boss. If you want any other help or assistance, just send me a DM here on Instagram and I will get you what it is that you are looking for. Thank you again for joining me. Thanks everybody for being part of my live reveal of what my kids actually think of my parenting. I hope this has been revealing to you and perhaps a little bit liberating as well. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. Thanks again for joining me. Mwah. Bye.